Welcome, folks, to Cinemally Encore. We are back after, covering the WGA strike and the writer's strike. And, well, holy fucking shit.
Okay, so
Within the week of us releasing, or us recording the episode, that's when we learned that pretty much, going close towards the end of the weekend that the writers went on, or not the writers, the actors went on strike. They joined the
the actors
writers.
are on strike. Yeah,
Yeah,
burn Hollywood to the ground. I mean,
I mean
going a
throughout
little.
this, ever since since the writer strike has been going on, we've been getting memes and updates, all through the loop. Like this is something that, yes, there are people's lives that are in danger, but man, we can take a few moments to kind of laugh and chuckle at pretty much what's happening to Hollywood.
Just
And for
like how out of touch all of Hollywood is about this. Like,
pretty
oh,
much,
people don't need money to survive. What are you talking about?
right? And yeah, so the writers went on strike, and oh my god, that's the moment. The moment that, I mean, the actors went on strike too. I'm sorry, I'm so focused on the writers. It's the writer in me. But when the actors went on strike, it felt like everything was turned up a notch. I mean, the
Yeah,
memes, the news articles of everything that's coming out, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? No lie, I kind of feel like we're in a Saturday Night Live sketch. I kind of feel like
yeah,
we're in there. Like, they didn't really stop writing. We're all living in their writing right now. So,
yeah. This is a Black Mirror episode, and it's just
wait,
that's so suitable because the first episode of the new season is about like AI taking actors' faces and like ripping people's lives and putting into a story on or a TV show
yeah,
without their consent and just like, oh, you signed away the rights and now you this is your life now. You're gonna be miserable because of it.
that's
Like,
one of the scary stories. Because, yeah, my cousin told me, oh, like, I've seen this episode of Black Mirror, or is that the name of the show, Black Mirror?
Black Mirror. Yeah.
Black Mirror. Okay, for some reason in my brain told me that was wrong, and I was all like, but yeah, like, she was like, oh, this was like an episode of Black Mirror, and I was posting all around the socials. So apparently, for those of you guys that do not know, there is something that the studios are pushing for, which I think it's already been done. There's already background actors. Which back then they used to be called extras. Now it's background actors, but they in order to be able to work with the studio, they can sign a contract in which they'll get their face and body scanned, and pretty much they can underneath that studio guys, they can pop up as a background character in any, like, say Universal does it, they could be
Digitally
in you.
inserted
Yeah,
over and over with no
but
pay, no credit,
yeah,
and just like you're like I just can't see like the use in that because like
yeah,
I mean
because in the article I
it's
read, the article that I read
yeah,
is that if you sign something like this with Universal, and then you're like, oh well, like, you know what, like, I can just go take these shots and everything, and go to Warner Brothers, like, hey, I like to work with you guys as like a background actor, and they're like, oh well, we can't do that because, looking up, you're contractually obligated to Universal. They own your look
yeah,
and everything, and so it completely fucks your career. And it kind of makes me wonder how
yeah,
many people, if this thing has already been put into action and there are already background actors or just people in general that are trying to get into the industry, and now their likeliness and everything is all owned by one sole company.
yeah.
um
And just like there that it's so crazy because like you're robbing the future generation of like actors,
mm-hmm.
like just to be able to own them. If you want to like have a career, you have to like stick with them,
Yeah,
and it's just like it robs you of choices, and you just got to be careful when signing shit like that, you know?
yeah, I mean, like, probably, what, back in the 1920s you could probably still make a living working for one company, but here we are, like, over 100 years later, and yeah, no, that stuff does not work. It's like you they not a single studio can make you a home name. Like, you have to do it all around,
Yeah, the
but
radio shows and stuff. You had to like go to three different time zones to play different plays, and you had to like be moved around to different studios who had productions going like 24/7. And just today's day and age, you like don't have the freedom you did back then, and like the studios are buckling down on like controlling everything.
Yeah. Also, apologies to our listeners. Chris is in the lobby of the hotel, so we're gonna have some guest speakers pop
Yeah,
in.
we're gonna have some guest voices popping up,
Yeah.
and it's a very echoey lobby, so
As much as you would
uh,
talk quietly, like it,
yeah.
it, it echoes and everything. So yeah, the actor strike. Oh my God, where do we start? Bob Iger. Let's start. That's the sweet spot of this. This dude
Uh,
has like people thought they hated Elon Musk. I think Bob Iger is like really starting to get
Bob
that center
Iger
heat
is way worse.
and
He's
everything.
the reason
To,
Disney's in a shit show right now.
pretty much, and yeah, like so he's all like, oh, I think what they're asking us is completely unfair, and it's like you make over 400 times the amount yearly than a writer or an actor in Hollywood does. And I know
Yeah.
there's some people that complain about it, and I've seen I've seen my fellow filmmakers from H Town, and I've seen other people mention that what most people are judging the pay stuff for Hollywood. They're only looking at the one percenters. They're looking at the Brad Pitts, and they're looking at the who's the chick that played Mystique in the prequels?
Jennifer Lawrence.
There you go. I for some reason was gonna say Jennifer Tilly. That's a totally different actress.
And she's just so dreamy still.
I know, right? But either way, so like those are more like the one percenters. Those are ones that have already essentially broken through the barrier. They're world renowned. They've gotten the really good contracts, but
They
you're
have
also
their
looking at.
multi-million-dollar houses.
I don't know about that, but yeah, sure. Let's run with that. That's kind of more. That's more the narrative that most people view these people as.
Yeah.
But then you look at Henry Cavill that like lives in a small little flat or whatever in the UK. But yeah, so like it's more than just them. It's that's like the 1%, but you have the people that work the commercial stuff, because it's not just affecting just movies, it's affecting TV as well. You have like the background actors, you have the guys that have been supporting actors their entire life, and they've not really got big contracts to where it's like, oh yeah, I can only do like a few films a year, and I can just rely on that. It's like, no, they're constantly working. And then there's some one percenters that have just fucked themselves in the ass so damn badly that they need the work, like Nicolas Cage. But I love Nicolas Cage, so I love seeing more Nicolas
I mean,
Cage. I love the
Nicolas
Cage
Cage
universe,
everywhere is the best.
right?
He's
Especially when I
probably
saw
done some roles
Renfield.
that like he never would
Oh
have.
my,
I still haven't seen that. I need to see that. I wanted to
he
check that out.
the movie's batshit crazy, no pun intended, because it's Renfield.
Uh,
But believe it or not, Nicolas Cage is what sells this fucking movie. With like when I watched it, and he would pop up, he's like, "I am the Lord of Darkness," and and it's all like he just eats up the scenery. And so yeah, that's like kind of like the only one percenter actor that, to me, it's like you can put him in everything. Like I want to see him. As much as there was like a petition for was it Bruce Campbell to replace Momoa's co-actor in Aquaman, it's like, you know what, I like to see.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
him to be the new mirror.
yeah. I want Nicolas Cage to be Mera. Like I think he has the hair for it. He pulled it off in Con Air. I think he could do it
Yeah.
now, like Aquaman and everything. But he would do it like all crazy, and like Momoa's like, why are you like that? Like it's all like
Yeah,
it's method
it'd be pretty
acting.
wild.
Yeah.
But like, I just Nicolas Cage, like I saw a quick little like video. I guess it was part of the trailer of him as like it was the black and white kind of
Mm-hmm.
recreation of Renfield meeting
The
Bela
Bela
Lugosi's
Lugosi film.
Dracula on the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the stairs. He's like, Count Dracula, and just like he looks so much like him. It's just
Like
like
Bela
perfect
Lugosi,
casting right there.
he did everything so eloquently and so perfect, and yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay, we're
fucking
gonna
love
count
that. I
Dracula.
love that. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back, we had our side tandem with freaking Nicolas Cage. So
We
yeah,
love
like
movie.
pretty much. So
Uh,
yeah, like it's the people that actually work most of the time. It's not like the people that maybe you get tired of seeing their faces as they do like maybe 5 or 6 freaking movies, and they're in those big franchises. But then you also have the other people that they work every day, and it's like, oh, I remember that face. Oh, I remember that face. Like
yeah.
Like, remember in the 80s and the 90s, there was always that one Asian guy in every Van Damme film, and I think he was also in every. I think he was in RoboCop. Like he had like a little bit of a balding, but his hair was long and black, and everything.
Oh, the dude from Die Hard that took the candy bar out of the thing, and
Yeah, that guy,
yeah,
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 him. It took me a moment because the first thing I was thinking of was the guy that fucking Bruce Willis is beating the shit out of, and it's like, yeah, no, but yeah, like that guy, and you know, I think he was also in the Ninja Turtles movie. Like, you see that guy. That guy is a dude that works on his craft. Rather, he's stunt, because I think he was a stunt actor, and then he kind of
yeah,
turned into like that background actor that you always see in action films. It's more for like,
yeah,
you know, making a living for people like that and everything. That guy, even though he kind of got boosted up in popularity because everyone loved working with him. He was easy to work with, and you know, he
yeah,
was able to get that stunt done, and which is kind of a good thing, being a stunt and a regular actor. It's all like, oh, you can kind of do both things. It kind of makes it a little bit easier.
yeah.
But yeah, like the the little people that work day in and day out, you know, regardless if it's actor or screenwriter, anything in the film industry, the crew and whatnot, your ads and your gaffers, you know, they deserve to actually have um, an actual paycheck that, you know, they don't really have to sit there and keep gripping, you know, month to month, or like, you know, week to week,
Yeah,
hoping that, you
wondering where the
know.
next job is going to be, and just like if
Exactly.
jobs you get called in for, then you don't get called back, and you find out that, oh, they're just using your face digitally without your knowledge, and you're not getting a
Yeah,
paycheck for that. It's just like you're gonna get like run out of town, and your whole identity is gonna be stolen.
pretty
And
much.
like it's kind of the same thing that actors, the writers are scared of. Like once you give them the okay to use artificial intelligence, like they'll, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Like that's what
Yeah,
that's the saying, that's so true. Like you cannot like give in on this. You have to like put your foot down. And these actors and writers who are striking, like it's super important that they get what they need to make sure
exactly.
like they aren't like screwed over here.
Which is why, you know, as much as you're probably going to sit there and hate some of the content that's going to get dumped out at, like during all this, you know, pay your actors, make sure that everyone, or pay your writers, pay your actors, pay, you know, pay everyone. There was like I think it was more directed towards Bob Iger, that pretty much what all he makes in a day is pretty much what a screenwriter I think makes within a year,
Yeah,
which is drastically, and like
super frustrating.
years ago, I think more or less a CEO used to make about 30 times the amount of like what I guess like an actor or screenwriter, generally right
Yeah,
around there. He used to make about 30 times that much yearly, and now it's skyrocketed to 400 and everything. And it's like we understand at the end of the day it's business, but holy shit, it should not be like that, you know,
yeah, that should
whatsoever.
not be that big of a difference
Especially
in
within
pay
the year gap of going from 30 times to just fucking 400.
for
Like,
the like just you could replace a CEO so freaking quick, and
yeah.
they could
And
be voted in and out. And like I'm surprised he hasn't been voted out, and or I'm surprised he was voted back in because
I would not be surprised that
he
after
dipped
all of
out.
this that
Uh,
he will be kicked out. That cuz
like
he's damaged the Disney image just drastically, and
he's damaged all the brands, like
mhm,
just pushing a bunch of like bullshit and
cheaping
pushing
out
out all this.
on the Disneyland parks and everything. So like
Yeah,
people are like wondering, why is it covering garbage, and it's like, oh, he's not paying the maintenance, or
Disney
he's not letting
okaying
the
crappy
maintenance people.
projects,
Yeah.
and projects are like bombing at the box office. Like in a perfect world, he would be gone already. And like
Yeah.
you just can't help but wonder like what the hell's going through their heads up there, you know?
Yeah. But there's a funny thing, because again, yeah, Bob Iger is like the center of most of this heat, because you know he sat there and he thinks, oh, this is what they're asking for is unfair. Well, there was supposedly like a leakage of the what the I guess like a bunch of CEOs were saying They came out before this about saying, "Oh well, you know what? We'll wait them out until they become homeless. They lose their homes, and then they'll take whatever deal first comes. You know, we'll just sit it out." And then mentioned that it's pretty much it's the lesser of two evils that they need to take. And a lot of people are very much throwing this at Bob Iger and everything, which, it just goes to sit there and show you. It's all like, oh, Bob is like messaging this after this got out and doing what you're doing. It's all like, you're not helping your case. You just threw all of this heat on you. It's like, I don't think any other CEO could fuck up nearly as big as this asshole.
Yeah, and the thing about unions is like they prepare for rainy day funds just like this.
Yeah.
So they can hold out a lot and like a really long time.
I don't
And
know
with
too
the
much about
actors
the
now going on strike,
WGA, but I do know the SAG AFTRA people. Yeah, they have it where the rainy day. I don't know too much about WGA.
that
Hopefully they
they
do.
can hold out for a while, and they can hold out. And I, with the writers and actors on strike at the exact same time, the studios are going to be in a way more desperate like position
Yeah.
because their stock processes are going to start dropping, and when people realize they're not getting new content and they're going to start losing subscribers to their accounts, or going to not have the box office coming in for any of the movies coming out because they don't have anything new coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're going to be way more desperate than the actors and the writers.
Yeah. They're gonna have to sit there and start re-releasing old classics. Like, I mean, like, we all have theaters that, like, maybe like on a Wednesday or a Sunday they'll play like a classic film and everything.
Yeah, like a Fathom event.
Yeah, well, chances are they may probably sit there and do that because, like, if they're looking at all these projects that are, like, already done, finished, they're like, well, which one of these is actually going to make us the money, and which one are people
Yeah.
going to sit there and support? And again, I think it's been 60 years since the last time both the screenwriters and the actors have striked together. So this is a huge, monumentous occasion.
I can't believe I'm alive during this time, and I'm so happy, and I hope they get everything they want.
It's a funny way of looking at it, but
So
sure.
proud of them. I'm proud of these guys.
Right. Well, hopefully they do get, because we're in this industry. We like to be paid, correctly.
For our work.
Yeah, for our work. We deserve
Fairly
to at least
compensated.
own an apartment, because we know God, just us trying to buy a house in this fucking economy. That's fucking laughable. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. Everything's skyrocketed 200 to 300%
Pretty
in the last
much.
2 or 3 years.
Pretty
Yeah,
much. And like we had to open up with this update, and folks, we may actually, because I was not expecting what was going to blow up after recording uh last week's episode, or not last week's, but the week prior. It's episode 3. I'm getting all of it mixed up in how I release it and everything. I know this is going to come out 2 weeks after episode 2, but pretty much since that recording, how much has happened. So you know what, like, we just like may have like a little mini segment that is all like the WGA SAG-AFTRA strike.
So this is what the update is. This is
Yeah.
how stupid the studios are being right now.
This is the Monday news.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Because I can't remember what the SNL one is, but yeah, I don't think we could use that title, but yeah, that was more or less, that was the update. What we're actually going to focus on for this episode, we're gonna get in touch with our inner nerdling with a specific film, one that my buddy actually gifted me for my birthday, because the director himself is born the day after I was born. Well, he wasn't born, but his birthday celebrated the day after my birthday. So Charles Lofton. Well, first off, I think we need to like discuss what the fuck's the movie title. The Night. Oh shit. Well, that is probably gonna be as best as you're gonna fucking get, folks.
The blurry.
I know, the blur. Why did I think this would be so fucking great for a podcast thing? I see all the other podcasters do it. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Night of the Hunter. Night of the Hunter, starring Robert Mitchum and Shelley Winters, which is funny. It says Shelley Winters is a co-lead when she's like only in the movie for like almost about like a third of it.
It's about half, I think. Right?
No, because like
really?
about almost like a good. I know, like in the last third of the film, it has to be with Lillian Gish's character, and so about like almost. I don't know, there's maybe about 20 minutes or so when the children are all by themselves. So probably within that. So it's probably almost about 2/3 of the
floating
film.
down the river.
Yeah, which again, it's fucking wonderful shot, with the music. So yeah, Charles Lofton directed this 1955 classic. They call it a neo noir film, and what's weird is it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a horror film. It feels like
Yeah,
what I want to call it as a Southern Gothic film, because that's kind of what the vibes give off. What would be considered Southern Gothic? Well, like I would think, more or less the themes of religion, which this film has it all over the place, but it does so well poetically that it doesn't feel like you're being lectured to or anything. Like you're sitting in Sunday church and you're just drooling because it felt like you just had a lobotomy going and you're just trying to stay up, not
yeah.
snore,
I
so that the
mean,
priest and all.
especially because the way it twists Christianity and the religion in the film, like the main character,
Yeah,
just like it's disgusting. You can feel like how venomous he's using
yeah,
the religion against everybody, you know?
yeah. Which I'm pretty sure mostly everyone knows what the fuck that's like in today's age, because at least here in America, it's the most extreme shit ever. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, so this is Charles Laughlin's only directed film, mostly because it was not well received for the time, but it did garner an appreciation throughout the years of what it is. And with me being a lover of classic cinema, specifically also just silent cinema, um, some of the stuff I discovered, I was like, oh, I did not know this went that far back. Charles Laughlin was born in 1899, still the early days of cinema. At this time, Georges Méliès was cranking out films in about like 4 years from, about 4 years and a couple of months after that, I think he would release A Trip to the Moon. So like Charles would be almost about like 4.5 whenever that movie came out. Um, but yeah, the movie is based off of the book with the same title, Night of the Hunter, by Davis Grubb, which pretty much talks about the real life murder of a mother and two children by Harry Powell, who is the main character of this. This is an actual real. It's like a fictitious, very gothic, dreamlike sequence of pretty much a
Kind
real
of a
life
based
event,
on true story,
very
like
loosely, like I don't know what the
like
fuck
the
that was,
way
but
Hollywood likes to loosely base things.
loosely, yeah, loosely. But anyway, yeah. So either way, like I actually heard like the book was very racist, so I may skip that book. The screenplay was written by James Agee, who also wrote the Humphrey Bogart and I think Audrey. No, I think it's Katharine Hepburn. Audrey or Katharine Hepburn. It's one of the two. I think it's Katharine. Um, the African Queen. Um, so like, yeah, like we had like a little like a pulp writer write this and everything, and again, I think really the only reason why they give this neo noir or just noir in general is because of the use of shadows. It's a very dark film, not just in
Yeah,
theme, but just watching it. There are a lot of shadows which are just done so well. The framing, everything, fucking beautiful. I think it's the third
and
time I've watched it this year because I
they use
watched it.
that the shadows very well thematically, like with
Oh yeah,
him being a wolf, like preying on innocent sheep. You know,
it's a story
just the
about
opening part.
good versus
That's
evil.
yeah. Lillian Gish does that opening little monologue in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm. Uh,
She's talking about wolf in sheep's clothing.
yeah,
She's
I'm
like
gonna
quoting
butcher it, but
scripture or something.
essentially, she sat there says that no good fruit can come from an evil tree, and no evil tree can produce good fruit, or something like that. Or I think it's something along no evil fruit can be produced by a good tree, and no good fruit can be produced by an evil tree. More or less like good can only come from good, evil can only come from evil. Uh,
Yeah,
which that can be argued in probably today's standard that we make our own good and evil, but for this time and for the religious thematics of it all, um, I'm going to shoot down the list of the cast before we jump any farther in this. So our lead is Robert Mitchum as Harry Powell, with Shelley Winters billed second as Willa Harper, the mother who has one of the most beautiful and haunting death scenes, or like death reveals. There we go. We have Lillian Gish, who plays Rachel Cooper. A little side thing: she is considered the first lady of American cinema, and she was the lead in D.W. Griffith's *Birth of a Nation*. That's what sat there and caught
Oh,
my eye and everything. Because even when you look her up on IMDb, you don't sit there and you don't see that old woman telling the story of Moses and all these biblical stories. You see her during her silent era, and it's like, like, wow. It was all like, so with Charles coming from that time period, and I'm pretty sure by the time he got into film, it was right when like the jazz singer was probably coming through. I didn't really look at his acting credits all too much, but for those of you that are wondering who this Charles Laughlin guy is, after Lon Chaney Sr. played the Hunchback, Universal remade it, and he played the Hunchback in that. So he's the second Hunchback to Universal. But yeah, Billy Chaplin as John Harper, and Sally Jane Bruce as Pearl Harper. These kids didn't really get that far in Hollywood. This is Sally's only acting credit, and this was Billy's end of his career. He's been like acting ever since he was like a toddler, and I think he had about like an 11-year career or something like that, or I think he wrapped out at 11 or 12. But he's been around since like he was a toddler, just used like in background and extras. So he didn't have much of a career. And then the interesting cast member right next to Lillian Gish is Peter Graves playing Ben Harper, the father of both John and Pearl. Peter Graves, for the older listeners, the name may ring a bell, and for people who love TV trivia or just old school television, he played Jim Phelps on the Mission Impossible series. He was introduced during season 2, and he lasted all the way until the end. And then I think he also did like a sequel, a spinoff, and his older brother is James Arness, which I don't know, Chris, if that
who's
rings a bell to
James
you.
Arnett? No, that doesn't ring a bell.
He was the lead in Gunsmoke. He played the marshal. He
Oh, I didn't watch Gunsmoke.
You didn't watch Gunsmoke? Well, okay. Well, I grew up watching
Sorry.
Gunsmoke thanks to Channel 55. But also, too, Peter Graves also starred in the, not starred, but he was part of the ensemble cast in Airplane. He was
Oh, okay.
he was the pilot and everything. So yeah, like an interesting cast, and that's pretty much all I have for notes. It's like I labeled right there. It was the cast, because I kind of felt like after this, it's like you know what, we can easily talk about the film, but regardless,
This is the pilot from Airplane, the Airplane movies.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
recognize his face.
it's funny because Leslie Nielsen started in serious acting. He did like serious shit, and then like he went right into the comedy. It felt like that's what Peter did and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, like again, a wonderful cast, and yeah, Chris, where do we want to take this? Because there's so many different ways in which we can take this film at a part. Like I've already kind of threw in a little bit of back history.
Well, I mean, we could talk about Meacham's character because he's very,
Mitchum,
very haunting and really well thought out. I think.
I think he's probably one of the best villains written for that time. He's so
Yeah.
real.
He like the way he manipulates everyone and just like he comes across as like someone like a protector. He wants to. He's saying he's a preacher and like he's a man of God or something, and like he's getting arrested right off the bat for stealing a car. And I think like I don't think he murdered the guy who owned the car, but like
It's been
you kind of
reported
think
stolen.
maybe he did. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
definitely like killed someone, and he believes he's right in doing so
Yeah.
because like
God
he's
told
got
him
the love
to.
and hate thing. Yeah, he uses God's name to justify his actions, but also like you can tell, just kind of tell, but beneath all that, he doesn't really believe in God. He just knows that people
He knows
respond
the
to that.
scripture, and he knows how to twist that to get
Yeah,
people.
he's a con man. He's a
Now,
serial killer con man.
I do have to ask this because this popped in my brain. The Harry Powell character. I wonder how much of that was an inspiration for Cape Fear. Because didn't he have, or at least the De Niro version, didn't he have love and hate on his hands?
I don't remember. I know he was heavily tattooed, and the cape. I only saw the De Niro version, and that one was very, very brutal and kind of terrifying.
But it
So
felt it when I watched it again, today, and I was thinking about the character. It really kind of feels like that character. They looked like they could almost mirror each other for like just sheer charismatic psychopaths and everything that will quote anything to swoon people, because that especially the Nero version. Holy shit, I keep being told by other people to watch Raging Bull. They said that's got to be his nastiest character he's ever played. Was in Raging Bull. That was the real monster that
yeah, I really
De
need to watch
Niro's
that one
played.
too.
I need to watch that one. But to me, I still think probably De Niro's most monstrous character was in Cape Fear, and so there I see a lot of similarities, kinda, in the characters. But yeah, Harry Powell, the way that he uses religion, and what really kind of strikes me dumb is how much Icy, which that is a character's name, Icy EY, how much she pushes the mother Shelley Winters to fucking marry this man.
Yeah,
What are your
the
thoughts
old
on the
lady in the
society, the society and all? Because I mean, her son can't get a fucking word into anything. Anytime he has something to say, she cuts him off.
wait, you mean John Harper or
I'm talking about Icy. I'm
like
talking about the woman that Willa ends up working for, and she keeps
yeah.
telling Willa, you need to bag him before someone else bags her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I like just in terms of like the society back then, like you need to marry someone in order to like create a stable home or something,
well, that
or
is one of the messages that constantly gets repeated throughout the film. It's you can't raise the children by oneself. You need a man for that. You need both, and they even like make mention of it later that with the what was it? I think they even made mention to it to the priest later on. It's like, well, like you can't raise those kids up by yourself. To them, they have the whole idea that regardless of even if you are a man of the cloth, you need a man and a woman to raise children properly. Um,
yeah. And
that kind
but
of
he
tends
responds
to,
with God will provide.
yeah,
The
God
Lord
will
will provide.
provide, and even then, it kind of feels like that's almost at the moment in which like the screenwriter and the filmmakers were more or less, it's like we're not really trying to lean all too heavily by sitting there and saying that, well, just using God will provide as like an excuse, that even for that townsfolk, they're all like, well, you still need two parents. You can't do one. It can't be done by one, otherwise the kids won't come out right.
Yeah.
And it's very disheartening. It's very, very disheartening watching this and everything, because I essentially was raised for a good chunk of my life with one parent and everything. I turned out right. I'm not a complete psychopath. I just have this obsession with cinema, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
I mean, I have a few bodies buried in my backyard, but I don't think I'm crazy.
I don't think you should be staying in the lobby of the freaking hotel. It's very
Hey, maybe
different
it'll
compared
empty
to.
it out. But yeah, no, I mean like it.
You better watch it.
It's very
That's a call of a
tragic.
Karen. Yeah.
It it's just very tragic that like the lady pushed her to marry someone who she didn't know and just like couldn't like see, didn't like want to like see getting into his backstory and like question like, hey, you knew my husband in prison? Oh, you were the preacher there, and you came here immediately after he told you that he stole $10,000, and
Yeah.
like there's nothing suspicious about that at all, and like, oh, the money's at the bottom of the lake, so nothing to worry about. I'm really here for you, you know,
And I
and
think he would have
it's just
believed that so hardly if it wasn't for fucking Pearl and
yeah.
everything. Pearl kind of fucked that up for like he could have believed single handedly. All right, well, water's down at the bottom of the fucking lake. That or that's where his treasure's at, and that gets very much mimed because the children, I guess you could say, their treasure is their one single parent that they have left after their daddy was hanged. And man, kids were fucking pieces of shit even back then when they were singing that hangman song, and then even like the sister was singing it, and like I'm like, you don't know what the fuck you're singing, like. But then
She didn't understand the context of the situation.
that's the thing that kind of balances out the siblings. It's Pearl is pure innocence, whereas John is more like seeing his father be arrested and having his whole world shattered. He's like a little bit more wised up to just how just fucked up and just heartless the world can be. Even though
Yeah.
his daddy did steal it and did kill 2 men on the fucking run.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
you can't
like
give him the full
I
benefit
can
of the doubt. Like,
I totally feel for John. Like I wouldn't have wanted my dad to die in vain and give up the money. Just like I would have like kind of done anything to protect it because he got it for the family.
yeah.
And like just
And
to give it up to this dude right away would have been like a betrayal. Like
and
I totally see where he was coming from.
yeah, well, like this is also still like a society of fathers knows best and everything.
Yeah.
Like that didn't really get shaken up until about the 80s, or really, what, mid 80s? Probably right around that time. It's the 80s. About the 80s, I think, is when they started shaking that old myth that father knows best, and you know, but like either way, these kids weren't really bagged the best father, and the mother did their best, and she goes off and she marries a fucking lunatic, and
Yeah.
I mean, like,
He's a preacher. What else? How else is she supposed to know?
at this time though, like you can kind of like look at this as like this is like if you've seen The Stepfather, you know exactly where this is gonna fucking go, because like the elements of like other, I guess, stepfather, murderous stepfather genres kind of took a little bit of Night of the Hunter with it, but yeah, when Robert Mitchum's character Harry pretty much finds out that the water is not underneath the lake or the pond as they were told, um, he ends up taking the kids' most prized treasure, which was their parent, and he fucking puts her there. And there's a lot, especially watching with the third viewing. There's a lot that I sit there and see that's constantly repeated. You know, the parenting, religion, a lot of like plot twists that are like, you know, oh, it's underneath the lake, and it's like, well, later on the mom will be found underneath the lake. Um, you know, there's so much repetition, which, you know, you find that in good writing is repetition. You know, stuff mirroring one another, foreshadowing, um, and yeah. Chris, where do you want to take this? I'm
I just about the mom, like you can see like she's also bought into the whole like I need someone, and like sees that this man who's coming out of nowhere wants to help and provide for the family, help raise the kids in a way that her husband didn't and couldn't. She's just totally bought into like, oh, the Lord has sent him to me, and that I need to do what's best, and like he won't consummate the marriage, and he manipulates her in thinking that she's like a harlot or something for wanting to try,
mm-hmm.
and like he just the him using that later after he's murdered her in the shop with the old lady and her husband, I guess.
Yeah. No,
To
no,
say,
no. That was her
oh,
son. That was the
that's her
son.
son.
Yeah. So,
Okay, that's what threw me off. I thought they were married,
but
like an old married couple or something.
no. So like this is what I was talking about earlier, where like the society where, you know, that old woman Icy was pretty much telling Willa, you know, you need to marry that man, and like anytime
Yeah,
that the her son who runs the I guess it's supposed to be like an ice cream parlor or something. It's weird. I think it's a
yeah.
drugstore.
It's like I think it's a drugstore. Yeah, because like
Yeah,
they had many other
because
names, but
back in
like
the day,
yeah,
kids, when you want your drugs, but you
everything was
also
a
want ice
drugstore.
cream, you could find it all in one area. You want a soda pop
Just
with
like
that
today.
Vicodin, just. What drugstore are you going to that sells ice cream? I want to go.
It's called a Walmart.
It's about like I want a double scoop of Xanax and a scoop of
Yeah, it's just
of
it's all the
Algae
same.
Med.
It's just bigger. Everything's supersized now. But like, yeah, the way he's such a psychopath. Like he will use anything to like make himself seem like the victim. Like, oh, she turned me away. the night of our marriage, and like I saw the signs, I just didn't want to believe it, and just like man, just the way his delivery is just I believe him, but also like like he's such a monster.
Robert Mitchum plays this character so fucking well. This, I think,
Yeah,
has to be. I don't know. I guess my mom would probably have a different answer to this because she's seen probably more of his work than anything. But to me, I think this is Robert Mitchum's best work. You
yeah,
know, and it's still so early in his career because I truly do believe I think he started his career in the 50s. Um, but yeah, that performance. We keep going all the way. We keep going back to Harry
yeah.
Powell, but
Go back to Shelley
this
Winters,
yeah,
but like
that's the whole thing. It's with this guy, with every character, it's so wired in tightly, and it's done so well that it doesn't feel like,
yeah,
oh, well, we're going back to him. Like, no, you want to know his relationship with character A, character B, character C, because
yeah,
it fits, and it's so frightening how well it fits.
and like she got so sucked into his personality and like his ideology that she's with him on like those nights where like they're trying to do little sermons,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like saying we're all sinners and we all deserve to like be punished or something.
Yeah,
But like yeah, and it's just like you see how devout she is, and it's so sad because when she realizes, oh, John and Pearl weren't lying, he is trying to look for the money. She's still saying, I know you love me. I know you're here for us, and like he's losing it because he's lost control of the narrative, and
yeah,
the fact that she still believes him doesn't matter to him. He has to get rid of her because like that is a loose end that he cannot have at all.
yeah.
He, the facade has been broken, and like he he will kill her. He kills her that night
Very
and
much
makes it look
like
like
at the
he's wrong.
beginning with
Yeah,
the and it's funny because this is based off of the Harry Powell story of he was charged and hanged for the murder of a mom and two children, but yet it's I believe it's the mother's two children that find their mom dead in the basement at the beginning of film, but
yeah,
and then like he goes and he's on the tractor trailer with that old Matt, or not Matt, but like that really like early green screen day where like you could definitely tell what was filmed and what wasn't.
yeah.
Um,
And just the car and the moving picture behind, the
yeah,
projector and on the screen behind
yeah,
him. Yeah,
and you have that, and yeah, there's so much that gets repeated. There's so much that gets repeated. I know it seems like I'm just fucking repeating my damn self, but I swear to
but
you,
yeah. I mean,
it's the
the death,
coffee.
her her body being found in the lake with her in the car, and it's so like picturesque, with her hair flowing.
It's like a
And
painting. Yeah.
what's the character's name? The birdie guy. Is that the dude, the old guy who was drunk when John went to go get help?
That
Uh,
was Uncle.
like
Yeah.
yeah, the uncle, and like he was just like he sees the body at the bottom of the lake, and he's just like, oh, I know they're gonna blame me for this. I just thought that was so funny. Just like, bro, what?
I I felt
What?
so bad for him because when you pretty much find out that like in this little town there's a lot of very just sad people, and there's a lot of people that love to oppress these sad people, like it, as much as Harry is an oppressor, so is Icy and everything, because she put in the thought, you can't raise children all by yourself, you need this man. And the kind of jump forward, there's a hypocrisy with all this bullshit, because as much as she pushed for Harry, for Willa to marry Harry, because you got to do it for the children, essentially this shit wouldn't have fucking happened if she kept her goddamn mouth shut, if she'd have shut the fuck up and not tell
I
Willa.
mean,
She did, because she pushed them together. I think
I
if
mean, he knew the money was there. Like he knew it
yeah.
was there. So I feel like he would have torn that place apart even if he didn't get like in with the mom there. So,
Yeah, because like I was all
I mean,
like, to me thinking, I was like, okay, well, this is where the money is. I already know where the money is. I don't really need to sweeten up,
Yeah.
the wife and kids, if they get in the way, I can just kill them. It's like, it's not the first time, and he mentions, about, when he's having a conversation with God right before being arrested, it's, it's like, you've had your share of killing too, and it's all like, wow. It's like the whole conversation he has with them, it's almost like he tries to make it seem like, it's okay that I killed because you had your share of bloodshed as well, you know
Yeah.
so it's like, it's more or less, it almost seems like you can't really judge me because you killed, you were the reason for all these other people's deaths, um and you've allowed it to happen. But yeah, like right whenever, he gets caught, um and you see Icy right there in the court, they're like, hang him, and her son's right there. And it's like, it's like, wow, it's like, if you just shut your fucking mouth, lady. Like, these kids could have probably still had one parent. They could have at least had one. And then to have it where after they're gonna get ready to lynch, that they find Lillian Gish's character, with all the kids, including, John and Pearl, and they're all like, "There's the babies and everything." It's like, dude, it's like, leave them alone. Haven't you caused enough damage for this family? It's all
Yeah.
like, it's like you judge the kids harshly based on their father and everything, made them feel like shit, and then you peer pressure their mom into marrying a psychopath. She gets fucking killed over money, and either way, she was gonna fucking die being in any relationship to this guy. She kept
Yeah.
pushing so much narrative, and it's all like, it's like if there was someone there that knock her loose.
I,
It's like, would you shut up?
I love that kind of the one of the last shots when they're like getting away from the mob. They're kind of like just walking down the street on the sidewalk, like a mother duck and her ducks right
Yeah.
behind.
Well,
I love that little shot.
yeah. So okay, so there is a funny thing about that, because looking up, Charles Laughlin, this is off of IMDb's the trivia. Charles Laughlin describes the film as a nightmare sort of Mother Goose Tale. So yeah, kind of like mentioning that, you kind of think, oh shit, it's like, yeah, the goose thing, Mother Goose, everything. She's taking care of all these orphans,
Yeah.
which like, I think we've talked enough about Mitchum and the Shelley Winters, the whole first act stuff. We got to get, before we end this episode off, we have to talk about Lillian Gish, like.
Yeah.
As much as these kids were great actors for what little they did. Like, these kids were fucking believable. I used to kind of only think Spielberg can get a really good, what's it called? That Spielberg can get like a really good performance out of children. I think Charles Lofton is up there. Kind of makes me wonder if Spielberg just learned from him as well, from like this one film he did. But
I mean, probably John Harper. Like, I think he did a really good job of being the protective older brother and like seeing
mm-hmm.
through like the uh, Harry Powell the whole time, and like just towards the end of the film where he obviously doesn't trust his mother and like to make a sound judgment call. But when
Yeah.
he meets Lillian Gish's Rachel Cooper, Rachel immediately takes them in because she sees that they need help and just like give them a bath. They're all dirty, and then like takes
Over
them in.
scrubbing the sister and everything.
Yeah,
She
and
dirty.
gives them a strong maternal figure to latch onto. And John
Yeah.
responds to that so well. And like he goes and like talks to her like, hey, can you tell me that story again? And like
About
just
when the king and queen saw Moses, or like they met
yeah,
Moses, and it parallels with their story. They
and they're
they had
bonding
parents,
so well.
and they went down, and it's one of the very few times I could sit there and say that they've handled a biblical story very well in a narrative. They didn't
Yeah,
make it sit there and super over religious, but they just looked at the parable, of what it is, and yeah,
yeah.
you know,
And so like they've bonded at towards the end of the movie. Like he's kind of like found his little home here, and when Harry Powell comes down the road and like I'm trying to get my kids back. I miss my children so much. Just Rachel's already like just suspicious because she knows he's been in town for a few days thanks to the earlier interaction with Ruby,
yeah,
and just like John comes up and like says he ain't my daddy, and there's that moment when they're staring at each other, and she gets it. She's like, and he ain't no damn preacher either. I'm getting my gun. And
Again,
she's like, I love that moment.
this is like the best one because yeah, that boy grabbed that doll, he crawled underneath that porch, and then
Yeah,
it felt like a Tom and Jerry moment, and like all the seriousness
he
where
gets a switchblade.
yeah, he's got his switchblade, he's like, I'm gonna get that kid and everything, and then you know. Lillian Gish is over here. She pokes his backside from the porch with the shotgun. And he looks up and she aims it. He's like, "Oh shit!" You can't
Yeah,
think like you think of a Tom and Jerry thing, and he's like, I'll come back. It's all like, you whores of
gun.
Babylon, and it's like immediately, even the first time I watched this, because listening to the religious jargon he would just spit out, I knew
Yeah,
immediately because most of them were women. He was gonna throw out the whores of Babylon. I was like, oh, that was predictable. It's like his whole character is shattering that he's a coward. He's a psychopathic
yeah.
coward.
He's a wolf that only hunts when he feels like he's got the like upper hand.
Yeah, and you know it's yeah, and when it comes later on when there's the huge face off and she finally fucking fires into him, which I'm still to this day, I'm still trying to figure out where she shot him.
I think she just shot him in the shoulder
That's what it
because
looked
like
like.
he's running,
Cause yeah,
he's
like
running out
he's
like
running out. Yeah,
and it looks
like
so silly.
it
It
is
just looks so
because
silly how he's running
because
into the barn.
I put this up to like it's one of those performances that an actor gives that as much as like I used to think Ryan Gosling was like a really like stoic actor, and then I saw The Nice
Yeah,
Guys, and when he gets his arm broken by Russell Crowe, and you hear that like yeah,
one of my favorite movies, man. I love that movie.
we have to probably cover that next season maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know. That's such a great fucking
it's a
film.
great,
Or maybe
yeah,
we'll
it's a
talk about
great
it on
movie script.
Encore. But yeah, so it's that scene right there to me thinking it's like, oh, like I'm so used to just seeing like Ryan Gosling like in what is it? It was Driver and I was gonna say Battlestar Galactica. No, fucking Blade Runner
No,
2049. So
yeah,
I
Blade
see
Runner.
that's my interpretation of what he does for film. So when I saw that film and hear him scream, I was like, oh, this dude can't be a badass no more. And now look at him. Now he's in Ken. He's Ken in a Barbie movie,
Yeah,
which I think he's gonna fucking knock it out of the park, mostly because of what I
got to
saw in
do
The Nice
stuff
Guys.
for kids.
Yeah. So going back to Mitchum's Harry Powell, this whole scene, whole film, even with that little funny scene where he's like, oh shit, she's gonna shoot me, but when she finally does and gets him, I guess, in the shoulder, and he runs screaming, it so much of that fear and terror that you felt for that character completely went away, and he went to go hide in the
Because
fucking barn.
he's like screaming like a wounded animal, like a wounded
Yeah.
dog, and it's just like it's such a high pitch, just like like yelping.
Yeah. And yeah, when you get so used to seeing like the scary wolf or the rabid dog that like, oh, you shouldn't be fucking with this thing, and in the moment you push back on it and you realize just how fragile it can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure I'd scream too if someone fucking shot me. But
You
the
gotta,
pitch, the everything, the way how he ran, it was fucking perfect. I was like, oh my
how he pops
god.
into the house, like just you
Yeah.
see the frame of the kitchen, and then all of a sudden he pops up like
Oh
just the
yeah.
monster creeping out of the shadows.
And it's like it's already like this is after a scene in which I would like to kind of view as a faith versus faith thing where they're singing a hymn and all of a sudden she
Oh
starts singing it back because
yeah, when he's
yeah,
out
it's
there
the
just
same
like
scene.
sitting on the and smoking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and everything because it's whenever he told him I'll be back at dark and everything, and so they're singing and everything, and it felt like
she's sitting
it,
there
it, it felt
in a
like
rocker with her gun.
if it's not a battle, it felt like mimicry. Like he was trying to
Yeah.
mimic that I'm just like you. I sing the hymns of the Bible. I know the good book,
I,
and she
I
sings
saw
it.
it.
But when she sings it true.
Yeah, I saw it as more as like kind of a condescending uh, a mockery of
Yeah, yeah,
the
that can be
hymn.
taken.
Like yeah, he had a mocking tone when he sang it. Like, and then she does sing it true, like you said. She's singing it like with true belief,
Yeah,
and just like the parallels between the two characters, like they're having a little battle of
over
faith there
faith.
that you were
Yeah.
saying earlier.
It's beautiful. It's one of the few times I could ever sit there and say with a film that deals with biblical and faith. This did it so fucking well that like at the end it's like fucking bravo. Like, fucking really that's all you can say. Bravo. Just, hand
Yeah,
clap. That's all you can do. And then yeah, whenever Ruby comes in, which again, fucking Ruby, goddamn girl. It's like you pop in at the wrong.
I love
I love it.
it.
Tell me, what do you think about my eyes? Are they the prettiest eyes you've ever seen? And it's like, holy fucking shit, man! Like, who
Just
Ruby?
like girls being all over in love
Yeah.
with the clear like monster or bad boy
Would
that,
you
that
buy
she
this
I don't know
magazine
if
for
it's
me?
being in love.
Would you buy me an ice cream? And it's like, what the fuck? Okay, that's like. But you know what? Like watching this in the Texas heat right now, it's like, you know what? If some motherfucker offered to buy me ice cream, I'd probably love them too. As fucking hot as it is, it's like that to me, that would be soul. That'd be like soul feeding. But yeah, like with Ruby coming in and everything, and then like she's like, go back inside, and the moment she blows out the light and he's gone, and it's like,
Yeah, it
oh, that was
vanishes.
so yeah, that was
He
so
was
well done.
right there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all so well done, and I know we got all over the place with this final act, but it's so well done. And really, when you think about it, the whole like court thing, you feel bad when he's getting arrested, not for him, but for the son, because John sees this
he's
again, and it's a PTSD kind of flashback to seeing his father, and it's all like,
yeah,
and so he figures this time. I don't think it's so much towards Harry, but it's more towards the cops. That here's the money, give me my father back. Please do not take
yeah.
this away.
I want
Um,
my family back.
yeah,
Like,
and you feel so bad about that, and then he passes out, and Lillian goes to pick him up and walks him back, and she's heartbroken because while she wasn't there to see it the first time, I do think that she probably clicked to that, this is what happened to his father. And,
yeah. I mean,
this is
he's
such a
screaming out for his
traumatic,
father.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's such a traumatic, and especially it goes back to that ain't my daddy, but that smirk,
yeah,
like, yeah, that ain't my daddy. And, but yeah, that's so heartbroken. And to me, really, the story kind of ends with Harry Powell being pretty much in court. They pretty much deem him guilty. He's gonna hang. But we get like this nice little, post story, a epilogue, where it's Christmas time by the time that he's hung, and you get to sit there and see what is the family dynamic. The watch that gets brought up earlier. Before Icy is all like, did they ever find where your pa hid that money? And it pretty much, our main character wanted that watch. He kind of viewed that as, as something important to him. And so for Lillian to purchase that for him, and she's like, it's always nice to have someone around here to give the proper time. And
yeah.
even Ruby gets a nice little send off, where she gets the nice little thing and the little pendant. Um, but yeah, it's a
John wraps
nice.
the apple
Oh God,
and gives to
that was
Rachel.
wonderful because everyone made Lillian something, but he didn't. And so yeah, the best gift to ever give a body, and it was an apple. And
Yeah.
it's the little things, it's the little gifts, that people give. And I don't really know too much of what the apple would symbolize, because to me, I think Garden of Eden, knowledge, but I don't think that was really. So I have no clue what else apples could have meant.
I mean, yeah, not off the top of my head, but like
Yeah,
I thought it was just more of a gesture of like thank you for everything
yeah, for
at the time.
saving our lives and giving us a home. And
Hmm.
again, this is a wonderful film. I know we just talked nothing but fucking spoilers, but folks, if you haven't seen it, you can watch it on Tubi. I really did wish I had the time today, but I was so busy to look at the featurettes, because in the featurettes of this one, that my buddy Chris, thank you again, um, who got this for me for my 30th birthday. It's a 4K scan of the original 35 millimeter print. This has the audio commentary from novelist and film critic Tim Lucas, isolated music and effects soundtrack, the love and hate, the filmmaker Ernest Dickerson, pretty much talking about this film. Little Lambs, which is actress Kathy Garver, I have no clue who does she play because she's not one on the main one. So I wonder if that's Ruby or if it's one of the other actresses. Um, that was
Gloria Castillo was Ruby.
this one's Kathy Garver. So I have no
Yeah.
clue, but it's her talking about the film, and then Hing Hang Hung, artist Joel Coleman talks about Night of the Hunter, and then of course that's a theatrical trailer for this. But again, this is a wonderful, collection. It's 2 discs. Um, so there you go. We got a little bit of an unboxing today. Haha, a little extra plug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's yeah, this is got to be one of the best gifts I think I've ever got. And I was surprised that I got a classical film by a film friend. And it's I think you're the only one that's ever given me something like that. So thank you again for that. Yeah, Chris.
I remembered when you mentioned it in the group chat several months before. I was like, oh, I saw that and I saved it on my little shopping list there. I was like, oh yeah, James' birthday coming up.
Thank you so much. But yeah, Chris,
You're
you have any
welcome.
final thoughts for this film?
Very scary. There are a couple things that I just found silly that I want to mention.
Okay.
When they're in the cellar and he's taking them down to the cellar and show me where the money is. He is down on his knees this is concrete, and they whack his head with the shelves and they run up the stairs and he chases after them. They have a clear lead, and the editing. It just seems super weird
You
because
talking about the
he
scene where
does this
he's yeah.
Frankenstein thing. Yeah, he does this Frankenstein
I
thing
thought
where
that
he
was hilarious, silly too.
gets you.
I was
That
waiting
was
for a
just
close up on his face to just see him, and you see a thumb or
yeah.
whatever in the foreground.
And
Yeah,
his hand gets caught in the door, and he's like, ah, and then he starts I just that is so 1950s fun.
yeah.
like way to handle that.
I
It
think
was hilarious.
you kind of needed something like that for such a dark film. You needed these little moments, especially with me laughing at the high pitched squeal when he gets shot. I think with so much of the tension and it's so dark, even for a film of this time, you needed those laughs. You needed it to
I
get
can
on
just
to the next act, and
I can see the theater at the time just being like, oh my god, and just watching that modern day, it's just that's so silly. It's not terrifying at
but
all.
it's
It's just
great because it still works.
yeah.
You're over here. It's like yeah, I've seen Tom and Jerry do this countless times. Uh,
Yeah.
and I know I keep mentioning Tom and Jerry, but you know what? I've been on a binge of that. It's a weird binge between this classic films and Daredevil season 2. That's a weird binge that I got going for me. Um,
It's
but but yeah, any other
no,
silly moments that caught your eye?
uh, it's not a silly moment that caught my eye, but the whole Harry Powell and John Harper, John coming going after John, or Harry going after John, reminded me of Sideshow Bob and Bart Simpson on the back dynamic. I'm trying to kill you.
I think one of those episodes that did that, I think they did make a reference. I know there's a Cape
I
Fear
did.
reference. There's a Cape Fear reference for sure, but I do
That's
believe I think
hilarious.
one of those. I do believe one of those, yeah, because even Sideshow Bob has a not a biblical, but he has a very theatrical presence that
Yeah.
But I kind of stared at more Norma Desmond, very eccentric,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I can get behind that, yeah. Um,
But
so
that,
there is
oh,
one I thought Uncle's scene where he's spiking up the coffee, where he's having coffee with John and everything.
oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
one of the it's such a little moment for such a small. It's not a little moment. It's a big moment actually for such a small character. But it's whenever he's pouring it in the tea, in the coffee, and it's the picture of his wife, his dead wife. She's been gone 25 years, and he's like 25 years gone, and she's still got eyes on me. And puts it down, and he
Yeah.
starts drinking. I was like, oh my god, that. Again, it's such a small thing to really put in there, but it means so big in the town, you know
Yeah.
you got the nosy fucking people that want to get in your goddamn business, and you got a lot of the sad people in there. And when you talk about Lillian Gish's, strong motherly thing, that was something that Shelley Winters' character could not give them. she
Yeah.
had something, and I think the first time I watched it, it's like, God, she's a fucking hard ass. But you have an understanding that, you know, she's lost the love of her son, and so this is how she feels that love, and it's with just the love of the children. And you're like, oh, that actually means something. That's sweet, you know.
Yeah.
Makes my dead heart maybe beat a little bit, but you know,
You're alive? What?
I it's
You're not
fucking
alive?
pale as I am. Yeah, surprising. I'm alive. But
Holy shit.
yeah, we got Some Like It Hot. That's coming up.
Something like that, huh?
Some Like It Hot.
With
I figured why not?
Marilyn Monroe.
We're gonna jump 4 years ahead because this was 1955, so we're gonna jump 1959 with some Jack Lemmon, some Tony Burton. For those of you guys that don't know, he's Jamie Lee Curtis's daddy. It's pretty much, I think, where she gets a lot of her acting. It's from her father. You can see a lot of her father if you've seen Tony Curtis movies. I know I've seen it a lot. But yeah, we're gonna be covering that with Marilyn Monroe. You know, it's like Jello on high heels, or Jello on heels. Just something I fucked up that whole damn quote and everything. But yeah, that's coming out in about 2 weeks. By the time that this comes out, RoboCop should be also made available onto YouTube. We definitely had fun covering RoboCop, and I'm deeply saddened that the video game got pushed back. I think an extra month. It was supposed to come out,
Oh, it did?
I think it was supposed to come out in August, and now it got pushed back to September.
I remember that trailer being announced, and I just do not remember very much about it, but the game looked really cool. Is it a
They
full-on game? Like,
yeah they released a gameplay video thing, and they kind of there are some people that they hope that maybe the changes will come before the releases, but it kind of felt like RoboCop kind of is like super OP against some of these enemies, because it's like some of the enemies don't make sense difficulty wise, so it's like you can just bust into a room and just shoot the shit out of everyone because you have these targeting things, you know, like
yeah.
what RoboCop has, where you target boom boom boom, you know. But apparently he will have upgrades. You can upgrade his armor, and I swear to God, I really do hope like one of the secret armors is the armor from the remake, but it's still like it's not slender, but it's just a black armor with the red visor that you could have as like, you know, oh, this is like a little costume that you can put on. I really do hope so. You know, it's like it's still Alex Murphy, you know, in the big bulky suit, but it's like a stealth black outfit.
Yeah.
You know, at least something to put a nod, because that was really the only good color scheme they had in the fucking remake. It's the only good suit look that fit that Murphy, but who knows? Maybe it may look
They
good.
they had they had him in the original suit by the end of the movie, I know. But like that remake just isn't that great. I mean, it's not bad, but like it's just it doesn't compare to the
We're,
original.
we're, we're not going to shit on it anymore. We've shit on that fucking film enough time. Enough times for me to make clips out of it where people are like, God, like, do you talk about the movie RoboCop, or do you just continuously shit on the fucking remake? And
A
it's like,
little bit of both, okay?
it's
We
like,
like balance.
yeah, I was like, I ended up telling a person, I was like, we actually do like talk about the original, but yeah, we took so many pot shots at the fucking remake that like even I realized in editing, I was like, ah, shit, maybe I shouldn't have fucking said that, and it was like,
Love and hate. Love
you
and
know,
hate.
you know, but
Let me tell you a story about RoboCop. Love and
but
hate.
our love for the original beats the hate for the remake.
Yeah.
You guys will only get that if you see the fucking movie Night of the Hunter. Chris, where could the people find you on the socials?
You can find me on Zealous Slacker.
Everywhere,
Yes.
even on
Just type in
Tinder.
Zealous Slacker. Oh yeah. Especially no, not on Tinder. I'm not on Tinder anymore.
Oh my god! And you can find me as the Gothic Storyteller on most of my platforms. I think I have officially gone back as James Howe on Instagram. Could be wrong, but also too, I'm on Thread. I'm on Thread. That's actually been a pretty little fun, nifty. It's like Twitter, but less racism and less political strife. Um, and it's not run by an egomaniacal maniac that's so self-absorbed in himself. I think that's about as much as I'm going to
What?
talk about Elon Musk.
You just described Mark Zuckerberg.
It's the lesser of two evils, I guess. I don't know. Like,
uh, nah, I don't want to do either evil.
I don't fucking blame you. But you know what? Threads has actually been fun. I've been actually able to sit there and engage a little bit more with communities, talk about film, and yeah, like that to me, as long as if I can use it and it gives me a very much positive outlook and I can learn something new from it, that's all I fucking care for. Twitter was a fucking dumpster fire, and I know a lot of people could sit there and agree to that, but to me, again, love Thread, and hopefully it stays good. Sooner or later, I expect a manual to come out to figure out how the fuck I'm supposed to use it, because I still feel like I'm using it wrong. But with that said, folks, we will see you. I have no clue what we're covering next episode for Encore, but I did give you guys the update for the Cinema Alley. I do know next month we start recording the next season. That's gonna be a bitch recording next season while recording, Encore. There's gonna be some nights
I'll be alright.
there's gonna be some nights we're gonna be recording double episodes, and I was like, oh, fuck, I'm gonna eat coffee.
Encore doesn't feel like as much work, so
no, it feels very much fun. Hopefully you guys actually have fun watching it. But thank you guys again for all watching, and you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and we hope to sit there and see you next time. Right, Chris? Say goodbye.
Yep. Bye-bye.